Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter what time zone you're in, welcome back to Sip&Talk. I'm Joe.
I'm Sunny.
Let me just get a sip of this cold brew really quick.
You need the caffeine today.
I really do. Okay, so Sip&Talkers, I actually had to ask you something before we get into it. Like, did you hug your pets before you left the house today?
Oh, man. Starting off heavy.
I know. But I had this really jarring experience this morning. I was just sitting on my couch, mindlessly scrolling on my phone. And the algorithm just fed me this video.
Uh-oh. I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. It starts off looking like, the most mundane, sunny American suburb you can possibly imagine. And this Labrador somehow slips out of its front gate.
Right.
And it sees a police officer on patrol nearby, and the dog just wags its tail and takes off running right toward it.
Yeah, I know the exact kind of video you're talking about. And we all know how these usually end. Our local news feeds are just completely saturated with them.
Exactly. In 1.5 seconds, that is literally all it took. The officer draws a weapon and fires.
Wow.
Yeah. The dog is killed. And you just hear the owner's heartbreaking screams echoing from the porch. It is a devastating watch. But the tragedy of that 1.5 seconds isn't actually what we're unpacking on Sip and Talk today.
Right, because there's a real second layer to this.
Exactly. The real monster here is what happened like 2 hours later after that body cam video hit the internet.
You're talking about the comment section.
The comment section. It was wild. Within 2 hours, the entire thread just completely derailed. People completely forgot about the poor dog on the lawn.
They always do.
Right. It turned into this massive, toxic battle of political and class warfare. And the most common phrase I saw over and over again from thousands of people was, everyone is saying this. It's obviously a systemic issue.
Oh, yeah. That phrase right there, everyone is saying this. That is a massive red flag for how we process information today.
It really is. So today we are doing a deep dive into narrative hijacking. We're going to tear the veil off modern social media, look at how public opinion is basically manufactured, and figure out how that phrase completely short-circuits our critical thinking.
Yeah, we're really getting into the underlying psychology of the outrage economy today. It's a massive topic.
It is.
But, before we can even understand the internet's crazy reaction to this, we actually have to ground ourselves in the stark reality of how our legal system views that 1.5-second collision in the physical world.
Right.
Because what we are really looking at here is the ultimate clash of intent versus risk.
Okay, let's pull that apart.
Yeah.
Because, as a pet owner, I look at that footage and I just think, how could this ever be legally justified?
I know, it's so hard to watch.
It is. Put yourself in the owner's shoes. Let's call it the intent world, right?
Yeah.
To the owner, that dog is just saying, oh, wow, a guest? Like, I want to give them a kiss. The dog is excited, curious. It's showing all this social approach behavior. So how can our legal system completely ignore that obvious innocent intent?
Well, because the legal system, they don't really have the luxury of operating in the intent world. They operate strictly in the risk world.
The risk world.
Right. Under our Fourth Amendment, a dog is historically and legally considered personal property.
Which always sounds so cold.
It does, but that's the law. So when an officer shoots a dog, legally speaking, that action is classified as a seizure of property. And when courts review these cases, they are not trying to act as animal whisperers.
Right. They are dog behavioral experts.
Exactly. They use a standard established by a 1989 Supreme Court case called Graham v. Connor. And that case judges police action based on something called objective reasonableness.
Objective reasonableness, meaning what would a reasonable person do in that exact same split-second scenario?
Spot on. And the really crucial mechanism of that ruling is that absolutely no hindsight is allowed in the courtroom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. You can't judge the officer based on facts they couldn't possibly know at the time. So, if an 80-pound animal is charging at 20 miles per hour, completely off-leash, and the officer has a tiny, like a 1 to 3 second window to react.
Right.
In the eyes of the law, that constitutes an immediate, reasonable threat of severe physical harm.
Which means, from the officer's perspective on the ground, they literally cannot use their own body to gamble on whether the dog is having a good day or not.
No, they can't.
Because they can't wait to see if it's going to, lick their hand or bite their leg. Waiting that extra half second to find out could mean a life-altering injury.
That's the core of it. The philosophical balance our courts are striking here leans heavily toward risk minimization. State agents are often forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain and just rapidly evolving.
Yeah.
So the courts aren't asking, was the dog actually friendly? They are asking, did the officer have a reasonable fear of danger in that specific microsecond?
Okay, I hear that, but there's a gaping hole in that logic. If the standard is just, I felt threatened in that split second, that sounds like a blank check.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Like, an officer could shoot a tiny chihuahua and claim they thought it was rabid. The courts must have some mechanism to differentiate, a tragic necessity from just a blatant abuse of power.
They do. And it comes down to a legal doctrine called qualified immunity.
Okay.
The idea behind qualified immunity is to give government officials the breathing room to make reasonable but maybe mistaken judgments without the fear of personal bankruptcy.
Right.
So when courts grant this immunity, meaning the officer is not held liable, it's usually because the dog was in an open space, like a street or an unfenced front yard, and it's charging fast, unconstrained.
Okay, so it has to be a real, credible physical threat.
Exactly. It's generally a medium to large breed, and the officer is already operating in some kind of chaotic, high-stress situation.
Okay, but I know immunity gets denied, too, opening the department up to civil suits. Like, I'm thinking of cases like Brown v. Battle Creek Police Department.
Yes, great example.
Because the courts actually look at very specific environmental factors. If the dog is already restrained, like it's behind a chain-link fence or locked in a cage, or if the body cam video clearly shows the dog is actively retreating, the courts will strip that immunity away.
Yeah, and to build on that, size absolutely matters in these rulings. If it's a tiny dog that objectively poses no lethal threat, you just cannot justify deadly force.
Right, obviously.
And importantly, if the officer had ample time to use non-lethal means, like, say, deploying a taser, using pepper spray, or honestly just stepping back into their cruiser.
Right, just removing themselves.
Exactly. If they actively chose to draw a firearm instead of doing that, the court views that as an unreasonable seizure of property.
Which makes me realize something. Arguing about that 1.5 seconds in the comments section is completely futile.
It really is.
Because you cannot train human reflexes out of a sudden panic response. The structural fix has to happen long before the officer ever gets out of the car. And we're seeing progressive police departments finally requiring canine encounters training.
Which is incredibly overdue.
It really is. They're finally teaching officers how to read a dog's body language. Like, look at the tension in the ears, look at the base of the tail.
Right.
And more importantly, they're prioritizing alternative tools like physical blocking nets or pepper spray long before a firearm is even an option.
Which is how it should be. So we have this established legal reality. We understand the parameters of our Fourth Amendment and this whole concept of risk minimization.
Yeah.
But the moment this body cam footage hits X or Reddit or TikTok, all of that legal and situational nuance just evaporates entirely.
Oh, completely. It's gone.
Why does everyone watching on their phone suddenly feel like they possess the ultimate objective truth of the event?
Well, because watching those body cam videos feels exactly like playing an FPS video game.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. Think about playing Call of Duty. You are right there in the action. The camera is shaky. You hear the heavy breathing, the crunch of footsteps on the gravel.
Yeah, it's super immersive.
It essentially hypnotizes you into adopting the exact same panic the officer is feeling. You completely lose your objective distance as a viewer because you're in their body.
That is a brilliant analogy, and media psychology completely backs you up on that. There is this documented phenomenon called camera perspective bias.
Okay, camera perspective bias.
Right. We walk around with this illusion that a camera is just an impartial mechanical observer. But body cams are not objective. They are literal physical extensions of law enforcement.
Wow.
Stanford actually ran these psychological experiments proving that when you view an event from a body cam perspective, your brain subconsciously adopts the wearer's spatial awareness.
So you basically inherit their vulnerability. You inherently side with the officer because your brain feels like you were the one being charged at.
Precisely. Well, actually, it's more than just siding with them. Viewers in these studies consistently rate the approaching subject, whether it's a person or a dog, as highly aggressive.
Just because of the camera angle?
Yes. But here's the really wild part. When those same viewers are shown the exact same event, but from a third-person street camera looking down at the scene from a pole, their moral judgment completely flips. No, I'm serious. They tend to think the police overreacted. The physical placement of the lens literally dictates your moral judgment.
That is terrifying. And here's where it gets really dark. Social media editors know this bias exists, and they absolutely exploit it. using algorithmic editing.
Oh, 100%.
The algorithm only cares about capturing your attention in the first 3 seconds, right? So if an editor wants to completely ruin the cop's life online, they start the video exactly at the gunshot.
Yep.
They surgically remove the 5 minutes beforehand where maybe the dog was acting aggressively or the officer was actively trying to de-escalate and back away.
And the inverse is just as common. Like if someone wants to blindly support the officer and just demonize the owner, they freeze frame that 1.5 seconds of the dog charging.
Oh, with the dramatic edits.
Exactly. They might add a big red circle, slow it down to half speed, overlay these thriller sound effects just to make a wagging dog look like a Hollywood monster.
So the body cam footage is really just raw material. It's clay.
Yeah.
But how does that clay get weaponized so quickly into a massive societal war?
Well, this brings us to the core mechanism of narrative hijacking.
Right, and to see how ridiculous this outrage pipeline gets, let's step away from the heavy life or death stakes of the police video for a second and look at something completely mundane.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Because this exact same machinery hijacks harmless stuff too. I saw a post recently from a college student who made a tiny minor complaint online. They were just venting that their mom put green peppers in their curry.
Wait, green peppers in curry?
That's it. Just a completely mundane food take. Within hours, the thread completely derailed. There were thousands of people aggressively arguing that the green pepper was a remnant of Taiwan's hidden authoritarian regime.
Oh my gosh.
And that forcing kids to eat it was a violation of international children's rights.
That is incredible and completely absurd.
I was reading it thinking, wait, what happened to the green pepper curry? It was completely forgotten. The original subject just evaporated into thin air.
That is hilarious, but it perfectly illustrates an economic and sociological concept called information cascades.
Information cascade.
Right. When a post goes live, most people actually wait to see what the reaction is before they form their own opinion. If the first few comments are highly emotional, aggressive, and heavily upvoted, subsequent users will abandon their own independent thought and just follow the crowd.
Right.
It's called cognitive offloading. Forming an independent opinion takes mental calories. Following the herd is totally free.
Because it's just so much easier to agree with the loudest voice in the room.
Exactly. And this hijacking happens in a very predictable 4-stage pipeline.
Okay, let's hear the pipeline.
Stage 1 is the anchor. This is where someone finds a tiny, often irrelevant detail in a post or video and blows it wildly out of proportion to anchor it to a larger societal issue, like class warfare, gender dynamics, or politics.
Like the green pepper becoming a symbol of authoritarianism.
Precisely.
Okay, then comes stage 2, hijacking. This is where the KOLs, the key opinion leaders and influencers, grab that anchored detail and share it with a really heavy moral judgment.
Yeah, they have to make it a moral issue.
They frame it so that if you don't agree with them, you aren't just wrong, you're a fundamentally bad person. It creates this intense moral anxiety for the viewer. You feel forced to pick a side immediately.
Which leads right into stage 3, the illusion. This is where the echo chambers really form. And in the tech scene, we see this supercharged by a tactic called astroturfing.
Oh, astroturfing.
Yeah. For those who might not know, it's a term for fake grassroots movements.
Yeah, I know this from working in tech. It's not just about posting a lot of comments. It's about tricking the algorithm using velocity.
Right.
These cyber armies, or bot networks, they flood a post in the first 15 golden minutes after it goes live. The algorithm looks at this massive velocity of engagement. The click-through rates, the rapid-fire replies, goes, oh, this is highly engaging content. We need to push this to everyone's feed.
You're touching on the exact mechanism. By manipulating those velocity metrics, they create the illusion that everyone is saying this. They literally force artificial virality.
And finally, stage 4, mutation. The original subject, the dog, the green pepper curry, whatever it was, just vanishes. It is no longer about the incident. It is pure tribal warfare.
It really is. But, this raises a really uncomfortable question.
What's that?
Why do everyday, normal, rational people fall into this 4-stage pipeline so easily? Like, what is actually happening to our brains when we scroll down into the comment section?
I think we lose our humanity a little bit, honestly. We forget there are real people on the other side of the screen.
We absolutely do. We fall victim to what psychologists call the dark triad of digital mob psychology.
The dark triad. Sounds ominous.
It is a little bit. So the first pillar of this triad is moral grandstanding. Think about it in the physical world. Achieving justice requires effort, time, verification, and usually some personal risk.
Right.
But online, sharing a video and calling someone a monster takes half a second, and it gives your brain a cheap, instant dopamine hit of righteousness. You get to feel like a hero without doing any of the actual work.
Oh, that instant dopamine loop is so addictive.
Yeah.
And it's amplified by the second pillar, which is de-individuation.
Yeah.
It's classic herd mentality.
Yeah.
When you are in a massive digital crowd,
Yeah.
you lose your self-awareness. You lose your internal self-censorship.
Completely.
The brutality of the language skyrockets because you feel completely anonymous. You're just a drop in a very angry ocean, so you type things you would never, ever say to someone's face at a dinner party.
Never. And the third pillar is tribalism. The nuance of the specific event is aggressively stripped away, and the issue is immediately categorized into political teams.
Which we see all the time.
Right, like in the case of the dog shooting, you instantly have liberal voices pointing to the video as undeniable proof of systemic abuse and unchecked authority. Meanwhile, you have conservative voices emphasizing the need to back law enforcement in high-stress situations and blaming irresponsible owners.
Yeah.
The actual facts of the 1.5 seconds don't matter anymore. What matters is signaling loyalty to your political tribe.
Which brings us back to the most terrifying phrase on the internet. Everyone is saying this. When you see thousands of comments aligning with one tribe, it does something to you physically, like you feel this pressure in your chest.
It triggers the spiral of silence. It's a theory coined back in the 70s. It's rooted in our deep-seated evolutionary fear of being socially isolated. Thousands of years ago, if you disagreed with the tribe, you were cast out of the cave and you died. Today, even if you watch that body cam video and think, wait, the mob is wrong here, the officer didn't have a choice, or wait, the dog was actually on a leash.
Yeah.
If you see that 90% of the comments are screaming the exact opposite, the psychological pressure is immense. Most people will type out a dissenting opinion, look at the anger in the comments, delete their text, and just stay quiet.
That is so incredibly true.
Yeah.
We silence ourselves because we don't want to become the mob's next target. So we're sitting here scrolling on our phones thinking we are participating in this grand democratic public discourse. But the reality is we are often just free labor on an algorithm's anger assembly line.
We're literally manufacturing our own outrage.
We are. But, I don't want to leave everyone feeling hopeless because there is a very practical, warm solution for your daily social media use. I call it the 3-second pause.
I love this.
It is super simple. Before you hit share on a controversial video or before you write a snarky comment, force yourself to stop for just 3 seconds. Ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, is my anger directed at the event itself, or was it manufactured by the comments section I just read?
That's huge.
And secondly, what was my actual first instinct about this video before I let the comments tell me how to feel?
That is a fantastic filter. Seriously. But I actually want to leave you all with a slightly chilling tech philosophy question to ponder as well.
Oh boy, okay.
If this kind of narrative manipulation, the astroturfing, the algorithmic editing, the velocity manipulation, if all of that is this effective right now, what happens in the near future when artificial intelligence masters automated narrative hijacking?
Wow.
Think about a world where AI can analyze a video, understand the emotional triggers, and generate thousands of perfectly tailored, outrage-inducing comments from fake personas in milliseconds. When the mob is completely synthetic, will it become utterly impossible for human intuition to escape that spiral of silence?
That is wow. That is a heavy, heavy thought to take with you the next time you open up your social media feed.
It's something we have to start thinking about.
Absolutely. But remember, today's Sip and Talk conversation wasn't about criticizing any specific group, political party, or profession. It's about taking an objective look at the systems we interact with every single day to encourage independent critical thinking.
Don't let the algorithm do your thinking for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit subscribe to Sip and Talk. And hey, before you go, we highly recommend checking out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Oh yeah, you gotta check it out.
He just dropped his latest travel vlog. It is super fun, beautifully shot, and absolutely a must-watch.
Always a good time watching his adventures.
We'll see you next time. And until then, remember to take those 3 seconds to see past the noise and look for the truth behind the 1.5-second clip.